All right, Sam, taking a look now at your assignment from week 5. Let's see how you did here. So, first thing I notice, of course, is that you used APA, and your title page looks very good. The one thing I am suggesting for everybody is to try to come up with a more interesting and creative, like, title that's directly related to what you're writing about and what you're doing with your paper. So, for example, it might be something like analysis of a article for such and such audience, right? And then put your specific audience there. That would also help me to know exactly who your audience is if you did it that way too. Good job here. Putting the title here again is actually a requirement for APA, even though the exemplar doesn't show that. That's like the about one of the very few mistakes I've seen in any of the exemplars is that they didn't have that. So, good job with that. All right, let's see how you did with this first paragraph here. There's a pandemic affecting. You might want to change which to that. That way you won't need a comma here. There's a pandemic affecting a large portion of American society, see, with the word which would require a comma here, but the word that would make it okay without a comma. That's up to you, however you want to do it. That brings an increased risk of heart attack, heart disease, high blood pressure, digestive issues, and weakened immune system. The culprit, however, is not any terminal disease, but something that the majority of us live with every day. Stress. Okay, so here instead of putting a period, what you could do is just put either a dash, or you could put a colon there. Either one of those things would work. In Take a Break by Nicole Belushi, 2010, the author argues that while stress can be avoided, okay, comma should have a comma after this here. As a part of this, comma, Belushi identifies some of the ways that stress presents itself. However, while doing this, she fails to develop any sort of metric that, okay, so there's your negative, what you perceive as a negative or problem with the article. So that's great that you included that. After all, as Pelosi says, stress is a truly unavoidable reality of life. And then your introduction, or you should have a comma right here after 2010, but otherwise it looks great. If this is true, then the critical part. If this is true, comma. So you think about how to use commas. Commas indicate a slight pause. So anytime that you feel like there would be a slight pause in a normal, natural reading of something out loud, that tells you it probably should be a comma. So like notice how when I say, if this is true, that slight pause feels like it's there, right? So that's where you usually would put a comma when you feel that slight pause needed. Okay. Missing. Okay. Okay, your introduction is not too bad. Maybe a tiny bit longer than it needs to be, but not too bad. Do the rabbit burnout experience. Fantastic. These outlines your article could truly be life-changing. Not written concise enough, man. Okay, so not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so your topic is pretty clear in there. You outlines or argument says. Okay, so that tells me the genre. Outlines or argument, clarifies the genre. Purpose is to show the readers blah blah blah. So that's in your thesis. Now, who's your clear audience? Who's your specific audience? That's something that I'm not seeing exactly who your audience is. So the way the stress presents itself, however, somewhere in your introduction, you should specifically state who she's writing for, or who your audience is, who you think could benefit from it. So you could even say something like, while Pelosi's writing to such and such audience, I believe also so-and-so audience could benefit as well. And then you make sure that you write to that audience for the rest of the paper. So you want to make sure it's clear who your audience is. That's not totally clear here. So I'm going to take a little bit off of that, not too bad, but a little bit. Oh, okay, here it is. You do have it. Awesome. I just hadn't got there yet. Hadn't really noticed it yet. Due to the burnout of extraordinary medical professionals. Awesome. Awesome. You did do it there. Great job. All right. Thesis statement, not quite the way it would be to the per the exemplar, but I think it still works. I think it's all right. All right. Historical and cultural context. I think you could probably say that culture would be like just medical professional culture, right? Or even emergency room culture, medical culture, something like that. And then you're talking about this as though it's in the modern day. So I'd say you're probably okay with your historical and cultural context. The core idea, again, is kind of revealed in your thesis statement, so I think you're good with that. All right, body, that's where we find the details. Take a break, please, leads for argument of simple truth. Okay, good. Okay, your citations are looking good, your details are there, and you're backing your details up with the evidence, which is your citations, source, stuff from the source, from the article. There you talk about the what's lacking, so that's great that you got to have that in there. Your communication is pretty good, yeah, very good. Your writing is pretty good overall, except for the commas. You want to maybe work a little bit on those commas. I won't take anything off for that because the commas is a common issue, and a lot of people struggle with that. Just consider wherever those slight pauses might be, because that's usually going to tell you a comma should be there. Like here, a self checkup, comma. Notice there's a pause there. A self checkup, which could only be done easily through the day, comma, could be crucial to medical. So wherever the natural reading of it feels like there's a slight pause, that usually gives a good indicator there should be a comma there. Okay, your citations are great. Everything's looking really good. So you've aced this one. Now, don't get too comfortable though, because I don't like to tell anybody that it's perfect or anything, because there will be things that you'll need to adapt and everything and tweak a little bit here and there to make a great project. Remember that your project next week in week 7, the project that you're going to work on is going to have 2 parts, which is why this is referred to as part 1. This draft is part 1 for a particular audience. When you do the final project, and you will also do a part 2 in the final project, and that will be your next audience, the second different audience that you'll want to address. So you'll just take this same paper and you'll reword it so that it's more directed at that different new audience. Okay, so everything looks pretty good through here. You do a good job of citing everything. It might be a little longer than it needs to be, but that's okay. I'd rather see it longer than not long enough. And this appears to be your conclusion, and that looks good. Your works cited or your references page should be right here at the top of page 5. So you can move that up to page 5. And also you want to make sure it's double spaced, and you want to tab this second line in so that it's hanging indented. Also look to see if there's a URL. I'm not sure if there's one available for this one or not. It may not need to be, but if there is a URL, you would need to add that to it as well. All right. As always, if you have questions or need help with anything, just let me know. But great job on this, a great start.